Everybody, welcome to the Village of Yellow Springs Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for today's date. You insert the date here.
2021.
It's good to see everybody. So we've got a number of items on the agenda here tonight, and let me just quickly get to that agenda. So we've been called to order, and let's do the roll call, if you would.
I would.
Thank you.
Jacobs.
Oh, I'm here.
Thank you, Raska.
Here.
Thank you, Reed.
Here.
Thank you, Salmonson.
Present.
Thank you. And Scott Osterholm's let us know he may be joining us late. We also have with us Village Solicitor Brianne Parcels and Planning and Zoning Administrator Denise Swinger.
Terrific. Well, welcome everybody. Hopefully everybody's got the agenda in front of them. I see a communications, review of the minutes, and then 3 public hearings on 3 variance applications. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, let's go with that then, what we've got here. Communications, what do we have? Anything in particular?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. You do have a late, and I sent it out to you folks. You've got a late letter from Wayne Golden, which is questioning the need for a variance for the sign. And
Does everybody have that? It's from Wayne
No.
and is it Betty or
Betty, yes.
Betty? Wayne and Betty. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Okay.
So you just sent it out to the BZA members and Judy, I didn't get it, so I didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Apologies. I'll resend as soon as we're moving here.
Okay. And and then something from Stefan and Vivian Markley regarding 506 South High.
Yes, stating that they had no objections to the variance.
Okay. Okay. And then we want to review the minutes from August 11th, and everybody's got them in front of them. Do we have any edits to those minutes or changes anybody wants to make? Does it look all right to everybody? I'm seeing nodding heads. Hearing no proposed edits, I'll propose that, would somebody want to move a document?
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Second. All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so they're adopted. That's great. We got through the hard part of the meeting. All right, so on to our first variance application, and that would be the one in the Central Business District, and hopefully all of us have that in front of them. This is the one from Max Crome on behalf of Iron Table for a couple of different variances. Denise, I think we usually lead off with you, and then we give the applicant an opportunity to talk, and then we open it up to the public, and then we have a discussion of the application and the criteria. Go ahead, Denise.
Sure. So this is a variance. It's multifaceted. It's for the outdoor patio at the rear of the property. The Central Business District has really a 0 lot line and 90% lot coverage on buildings, but they do have this 5-foot rear yard setback. So this setback is not something that is new as far as along that bike path. BZA has granted variances for the lumber company to also have an 0 lot line variance for their patio, as well as the brewery. And then for the signs, there's several different items on that. At the rear of the property, they have a sign. It's basically letters. It's fire, spells out firehouse. And when, Max, calculated that measurement, it was about 4.9 square feet larger than what the code allows, even though they're individual letters. And then for the front of the property, they're basically asking for 2 extra signs in the sign allowance for Corry Street. And this is because, it's really a unique use, and there's going to be there's a need for different types of signage because of what the event is. And there's the event space, and then there's the restaurant area, as well as the marquee. The marquee, it's really similar to what you'd see down like at the little art theater. So when you calculate that, it's a weird thing in the sign code. It's like you can have like an awning or so when you calculate that, are you actually counting the whole width of the awning or just where the lettering is? If you go where just the lettering is, then there's an area that's like 20 square feet on the side, and I forget what the other is on the front. It's in my report. But they're asking for a variance to that size, and their logo that they're putting on top of the marquee is a part of the marquee. So it's technically one sign. It's just going to be a little bit unusual than what you might typically see in a marquee. Old style. I mean, Max has indicated that it's very common with theater types of marquee signs to have this sort of vertical projection signage. And this sign, the logo would extend a bit over the roof line, but it's not on the roof. It's a part of the marquee. Max is here. He can also share anything more about that, but staff doesn't have any issue with it.
Okay, so I think typically we want to give the members of the board an opportunity to ask Denise any questions, and then we do want to hear from Max. But any questions for Denise? I mean, I'm going to admit up front that I'm a little confused by the sign and the signage, and I did pay special attention to Wayne and Betty's letter, and after I read that, then I was even a little more confused about the signage. So if people can be very explicit about where something sits and how it's oriented and how big it is, that'll help me better understand what we're dealing with here.
So I did put in the packet, Max did when he was going for the approval for the club, the comedy club restaurant, he did build to scale what that marquee would look like. And there is a photo in your packet, daytime and evening one, showing that sign, the marquee that he made.
Did that photo make it into the
Please tell me it
printed
did.
version of the packet that was brought to our homes?
Yeah, it's like Exhibit D, Ellis.
D, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
can also-
Okay, I'm just not looking far enough down. Okay, I got you. I'm
So when
fixated on
it
the fire
actually has written on it
rescue,
marquee, so
sign,
you can
right.
see the mark, that's the marquee sign and the logo that's attached to it. So in the scale of the building, it's not, overly powerful, in my opinion.
Okay, I see it. All right, thank you. All right, other questions for Denise? All right, then Max, you want to talk to us a little bit about this application and
Sure,
address some of the outstanding issues?
you bet. And I'd be happy to share my screen as well if you'd like to see some of the renderings that were shown at the Planning Commission hearing. And that really, that shows it graphically in context if that helps people understand what we're talking about.
It would certainly help me. I don't.
Okay, great.
Yes,
if-
please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if Judy, if it's okay, I'll share.
And Judy, you need to make him co-host.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to go to the same presentation that I presented during the Planning Commission hearing. So some of the things we'll be talking, or I may have to skip through some slides. So forgive me if some of it is not relevant to this particular hearing. So, but I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so that's the existing view. And what I did was build a mock-up of the kind of the relevant pieces. So this wasn't necessarily for the signage in particular, it was for the entire project, but you can see to the left of where it says Miami Valley or Miami Township Fire Rescue, about the same size as what it says Fire Rescue. That would be the sign for the eatery on that side. And then you could see in the background the marquee that I built out of foam, and I just spray painted marquee on there. And then this is what it looks like lit up at night. Just a different view. And then here's the rendering that really sort of shows you in context the actual signs we're talking about. So we have, and the reason for the signs, location and the placement and size of them is so that it can be seen from the intersection of Corry Street and Route 68, because really that's where people will be identifying it from. So, and if you stand on that intersection and you look, you'll see that the view is not as clear as this. There's a couple trees that obscure the view, but you will be able to see the marquee sign, and we will, if you approve what I'm proposing here, people will be able to see it. So next view here. So this, I'll give you, I think I went through 3 different views of this. So here's another view, just the sort of same process of existing with the mock-up and then my rendering. So there's a rendering there of what that, the eatery sign would look like. Here is a close-up on the marquee, or sort of that, what I call the queuing area. That's where patrons would queue up in front of the club. So that's what it looks like lit up at night. And that's the view, the rendering view of the marquee. And, I did want to say, I think this is sort of a perfect type of application for a variance because it is such a unique project. I've been referring to this project as a landmark because I think it will certainly become a landmark in town, and could be, it will attract people from the region and from really all over the place to come see this. So I think having it signed appropriately is very important and will really contribute to its impact. And so here you get an overview on the front side, overview on the back side, and there you can see what Denise was referring to earlier about the individual painted letters on the side. On the back side, I really wanted to have it feel like a really old-fashioned kind of sign as people were riding their bikes down on the bike path there. And have it, be externally lit up with those gooseneck style lights. This view is also pretty good to get a sense of why we're asking for the rear yard setback. I thought it would be really nice to activate the backside of the project where the bike path is and pull. The idea of that was to really, pull as much activity as we can to the backside of the project. And where you see the ramp there coming up from the bike path, that is the property line. So it's village property where you see where the bikes are parked and where those benches are, but where the seating starts and where the ramp is, that's right along the property line. And so we really can't achieve that, that patio in the back without the rear yard variance. There's another view from the bike path. And
Nick, is that pad in the back, is that essentially where there's an existing pad back there where young people with tattoos sit and smoke cigarettes? Is that the spot?
exactly. You've got it.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
And one thing I did want to say about that, we as part of this process, I was in touch with Nick, the director of the Glen, to talk about some of the issues that happen back there, the kids smoking cigarettes and other activities that might be happening back there. He was concerned about that, but he's very supportive of what we're doing. And what I committed to him was that we would have surveillance cameras pointed back there so that we would be able to keep track of any activity that happens back there. And it'll be well lit up, and it will, I think it won't be a place for people to loiter the way it is now. I think there'll be much more intention when people are back there now. And
Max,
do you have a
excuse me, I
view
think
of,
I keep calling you by the wrong
Corry Street
name. My
looking
apologies.
north?
I'm sorry?
Max, do you have a view of the from the street looking north? These are all, I think, looking south on Corry.
No, I didn't take that. I didn't make a rendering of that particular view. So you mean looking from like sort of standing where the marquee is, looking towards the intersection?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I don't have a view like that.
Okay.
But there's really most of the signs are kind of meant to be seen from, looking north. So apologize, I don't have that to share with you. So yeah, that's the.
Yeah, I was thinking more of what this is like from Wayne.
You're breaking up. Sorry, I'm not hearing the comment.
I'm sorry, I just got a note that my internet is sporadic.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about what it would look like from Wayne and Betty's vantage point, or from, if you're coming north on Corry is all.
Yeah, I'll pull up, oops, let's see. Let me pull up another image that's not part of this presentation that's as close as I can get to that. Yeah, this is maybe not what you're asking for, but it's as close as I have.
Can I ask a clarifying question while you're doing that? Of Brienne and Denise, the variance to the size is the fact that the sign will be lit. Does that apply to the variance in any way, or is that permissible?
No,
It's a dimensional variance.
It can be internally illuminated in the central business district.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the closest I have to what it might look like from Wayne and Betty's house. Although that's not the view. You'd have to imagine you're moving. This view is probably 50 feet towards the intersection from their house. Their house is closer to the marquee or across from the marquee.
Max, far be it from me to suggest Google's the epitome of reliability, but could we do a Google Street View?
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
To show Matt Reed's question as far as looking north from
Sure
Corry
thing.
towards Xenia.
Yep. Give me just a moment.
And Denise, how does the vertical C factor into these calculations?
It's part of that marquee sign.
So that is
So
included.
it's oversized.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's oversight. Yeah. So it's a size variance.
So there's the view. That's a pretty good view from across from Wayne and Betty's. I think that's probably a decent angle that I'm showing there. Is everyone seeing the Google Street View?
Yes.
And so then there you could see the intersection. I'll move one click backwards here. So really, we're not doing much to attempt to be seen from this direction, although you will see the marquee and you will see the big sign. It's just not, the design is not meant to identify itself from this direction or try to attract people from this direction.
Okay, I know for one, I thought the slides were very helpful. It helped me visualize this.
Great, good.
And I'm impressed that you took the time and energy to actually string the bulbs and do all that stuff. And that was real, not just virtual, right?
No, I did that myself, most of it. I did have some help with the framing part of it. I pulled a couple contractors in, but it was, if for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Yellow Springs, and I'm, moving back on a part-time basis, doing half-time in Yellow Springs, half-time here in California. And, I've never done anything like that before, mock up a full-size scale, but, this project's extremely important to me. I really consider the work I'm doing in Yellow Springs the most important work I'm doing right now. And I'm dedicating my own personal time to these projects. And I have my staff in California working on the other projects. So I'm really personally in charge of most of this stuff. So I did it because I wanted to demonstrate that I'm interested in being 100% transparent in what our intentions are. And so I think that was important to show for the whole community, and really just for myself to validate that, the scale was correct. And there's really no way to verify that. Doing it in a virtual sense, I do, computer models and little physical models pretty often on projects. But you're always surprised about the real life. It's always little subtleties you don't pick up on until you see it. So, but after I built it, I was very pleased with the proportion. I thought it was about right in terms of the scale and the proportion where you could see the signs from. And I will also say I spent the evening out there the day that I built it, just to talk to passersby and see what people thought, and really had extremely positive feedback from the community about the project and about what we were doing.
Thank you. So do other folks have questions for Max before you go to the public hearing part of this? Other members of the BZA?
I do. I guess it's maybe a question for the mayor, but does the light pollution fall under the jurisdiction of BZA, or is that a planning commission thing?
Planning Commission. Planning Commission's already discussed it.
Yeah, we will have all of those bollards. So the project will be lit up with the low bollard lighting. Obviously, there's the neon light that goes around the perimeter as a decorative light. It will be pretty low output. The ambient light will be cutoff lighting that's very low. So we won't have a lot of building light or uplight. So we've been requested for the lighting to be 90-degree cutoff by the Planning Commission.
Other questions?
I'm good.
Okay, not seeing any for Max. Then we're going to open the public hearing. And let me just, before we hear from Wayne and Betty, and we have your letter and we do want to hear from you, let's just see if there's anybody else, any other members of the public that want to talk. Is there anybody else here on this one? Okay, over to you, Wayne and Betty. Thank you for your thoughtful letter. I just want you to know that your line about do they anticipate many nearsighted drop-ins did not go unnoticed. Do you want to go ahead and talk about your concerns here?
Yes. I'm Betty Kelly, and I wrote my concerns down in a letter because otherwise I get distracted easily. So I'll read it to you and then we'll go from there. I think Wayne also wants to say something. My name is Betty Kelly, and for the last 30 years, my husband Wayne Goulden and I have lived at 224 Corry Street, now directly across the street from what we refer to as Dave's Dream. We've spent time talking to Max Crome about our lighting concerns in general, and he has assured us that much of the lighting will be downward directed, for which I thank him. He came and spent a lot of time talking to us and gave us a tour. Our questions have to do, of course, with the neon. How bright is it? What length of time is it on? Will all of it be on if there's no performance or after the restaurant closes? And will it be flashing? And then we come to the marquee. Where Max sees one sign, I see four. I understand the need for directional signage facing both directions on Corry Street, but is it really necessary for a sign to be directly across the street from us, facing our house and actually facing a second-story bedroom? And then we have the vertical logo sign. This seems excessively superfluous. If this business was on the Vegas Strip, I could understand the need to stand out, but this is presently a rather dark street. In contrast to our two small strands of Christmas lights and Duckwall's airlock night light, Mr. Chappelle's building is lit up like either a birthday cake or a Christmas tree. The rationale that his vertical logo sign is necessary for people to know this is his club is, I find this kind of ludicrous. I mean, what else could it be? Where else on this street could it be? I'm a visual person, and I'm sorry, but when I look at that vertical sign, it looks to me like a finger pointing up at the sky. It's as tall as halfway up our attic windows, but our attic windows are surrounded by a house. This finger is out of scale and it's all by itself. As you can see, we would like to see no variance granted for the logo sign and the marquee sign facing our house. We have no intention of leaving this house unless we're forced out. We don't have anywhere else to go. If things don't go as planned, what kind of recourse do we have? Thank you for your attention.
I'm sorry, excuse me, sorry. And Wayne, I think you want to say something as well?
Just my thought was is that are we concerned here with the precedent that we might be setting that might be unfortunate in the future? Let us say some evil capitalist corporation buys the Little Art and wants to put their logo on the top of their marquee. Could we stop that? I'm guessing at that point, no. But just something to think about.
Okay, thank you. Are you guys open to taking questions from members of the board? Would that be all right? Wayne and Betty, are there questions for Wayne and Betty?
Can I just clarify something with Brianne again before you start?
If this is going to be part of the public hearing on this application, they need to be sworn as witnesses.
Well, and my other question is, I'm assuming that no questions can be asked or answered regarding the lighting. That's been determined and BZA has no jurisdiction.
Yeah, the lighting is planning commission exclusively.
Mr. Chair, if I may address one of the concerns that I heard that I hope will answer one question.
Sure.
The question about the brightness of the lighting and particularly the LED came up at the Planning Commission hearing. And what I committed to do at that time and what I'm would reiterate now is that we will be able to adjust the brightness and to get the lighting right. You know, I don't want it to be overly bright either. It's the neon light is just meant to be a decorative element and it's not meant to light the way. It's just meant to be a decorative thing. And I'm happy to, we can adjust the brightness on a dimmer for many of these exterior lights. And, you know, what I committed to is to make every effort to sort of get it right and to work with the community and you know, take their concerns into consideration as we adjust that and we set the timing. The neon will not be flashing, to answer that question. And I think that was what I had. I just wanted to provide that.
Thank you.
So
Max,
let me-
question, there was one other question in that I didn't actually know the answer to either. Was they asked about, would that lighting be on all the time or not?
No, it won't be on all night. It will, I don't, typically lights like that are on a timer, so there will probably be some lights that are on for safety purposes, you know, like maybe just a handful of the lights under the marquee to you know, because the exterior of the building wants to be lit up somewhat for safety reasons, but we won't have the whole thing lit up all night.
but I would assume it would be lit up until the show's over. Is that right?
Absolutely, which could be late into the night.
I mean, is this we'll have a 2 a.m. license or
You can talk about it.
And as far as precedential issues, Mr. Golden asked about, every BZA variance application is case by case. I mean, you're evaluating it against the code that's in effect at the time the application's made.
So
And what you're considering is the setback, the size, and the number of signs. Those are the variances that are being requested that you're limited to considering because your jurisdiction is limited. Everything else went to the Planning Commission.
Gotcha.
So it's not that big of an issue. Is that right, Brianne?
In terms of?
Establishing a precedent that might carry
Right,
over.
because every BZA variance application is case by case.
Thank you.
So Wayne and Betty, when I read your letter, you said that we are hopeful that Mr. Crome's verbal representation to us regarding various matters reflect reality. And so it sounds like you've heard some things that address some of your concerns. What did you hear that addressed your concerns?
Well, I mean, it's nice. I mean, we like Max. I mean, we really do. The thing that got me was that the mock-up, as I think in the letter mentioned, was not full size according to the drawings. The drawings show the top out of the sign going 25 feet above finished floor level. That's a long way. I mean, that's up past our bedroom. Second
The
floor.
mock-up was accurate.
Was it really?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
My other concern was the downward lighting because of the, our yard's a certified natural habitat and, worry about the birds and the bugs, and that he addressed that, and that was really good.
That's it.
In past instances, we've had a couple of other instances actually involving, although not of precedential value, but informative nonetheless, involving the bike path and businesses along the bike path. And I actually remember one involving the brewery. And in the brewery instance, there was a neighboring landowner who was concerned, I think, mostly about noise in that situation. And she came to a hearing and raised her concerns about the noise situation. And the applicant made some representations that were then integrated into the applicant's application about what was going to happen there that would address her concerns about noise. And so I'm kind of wondering whether this situation lends itself to that kind of treatment.
Well, again, you're
his
saying
voice
yes or no on a variance.
Yeah.
Planning
Yeah, I
Commission,
understand that,
when
but
they did the conditional use, incorporated conditions, including that the applicant go for these variances.
and I appreciate that. I still want to explore this question. Because, I mean, if you can vote yes or no, then, people might be inclined to vote no, but yet they might be inclined to vote yes with a slightly different application. I'm just wondering whether there are some simple things that could be integrated into this application that will make everybody feel comfortable.
Well, again, the planning commission has done that, Ellis. I mean, do you have the record of the planning commission proceedings as part of the packet? Because I think you've only got Denise's report.
That's
But
correct. Yeah.
if you look at the planning commission packet and the planning commission's recommendation for that conditional use permit, that's what planning commission has the authority and jurisdiction to do, is incorporate conditions on a conditional use permit to address these concerns such as noise, lighting, etc. When you're looking as a Board of Zoning Appeals at a variance application, you're looking at, again, setback, size and number of signs, and you're looking at your Duncan factors for those particular requested variances.
Right. And I honestly cannot separate a number of signs from and size of signs from lighting. You know, the two things are integrated. So if number of signs and size of signs are our purview, then the issues being raised here are in our purview. And I'm just trying to find out whether there are some simple fixes that could be made that would address the concerns that have been raised. Maybe there aren't. And really, Wayne and Betty, this may be mostly a question for you.
Well, you also have to consider the your zoning district, which is business.
Right, I understand.
You know, different zoning concern with, I guess, the bordering area with the brewery, but
Is their house in a business zoning area?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
No, we're part of the central business district. Actually, both of us have run businesses out of our house before, but we're both now retired. Well,
Lucky.
I still sell artwork, but that's not like my main income.
No, we knew we were taking a chance of sorts, you know, when we bought a place 30 years ago. And we lived at the fire station for 29 of those years. And, you know, we could tolerate that. That was not a problem. I guess what gets us, which is not part of this hearing, and that is that our main concern remains still the whole issue with parking and cars and traffic and commotion and all that. That would be a killer. The signs, I think, are probably, you know, a lesser of our concerns. It's just that, you know, the drawing, when you talk about a thing topping out at 25 feet, that's pretty damn big. I mean, that's
big.
That's the view out our bedroom window will be right at that. Now, we got kids who say, "Hey, that sounds pretty neat to us," but
Yeah, right.
but they're
not living here
They're not
either.
living here either, you know.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know. I mean, yeah. I tell you, I got to tell Max, the drawings look wonderful and the plan looks wonderful too.
It does.
We got to compliment you on that.
I mean,
really
it's
do.
a great, I hope it's a success. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you've done a great job, and I thought your use of the building was wonderful. It was really.
okay, guys, we need to move forward. I think you're
move
gonna
on.
have to go through the Duncan
Yeah,
statements
anymore.
here.
Yeah, go
Do
ahead.
what-
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. After hearing Mr. Crome speak,
You're on mute.
after hearing Mr. Crome speak, Mr. Wayne and Ms. Betty, do you feel differently about your position on the variance request?
Yeah, no, we don't feel much, you know, Max talked to us before quite a bit, you know, and that was much appreciated. And so, you know, we just wanted to, you know, when we saw the drawings and I looked at those closer, I saw the 25 foot and I said, oh my God, that's just big. You know, so.
I don't think a variance should be granted for the marquee that faces our house or for the logo sign.
Yeah.
You know, you all decide what you're going to do and we'll live with whatever happens. I mean, we've accommodated a lot of other things because this is where we want to live.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And other questions for anybody so far that's spoken? For Max, for Wayne, for Betty? or Denise? All right, then let's, and Max, do you mind if I ask you one other question? I mean, you've heard, it sounds like there are some residual concerns. Are there other assertions or other assurances that you can make that address those residual concerns here tonight?
I would just reiterate what we talked about at the Planning Commission. I'm concerned about Betty and Wayne Toon. They were very gracious to me, and they were kind enough to give me a tour of their house, and although regardless, I would care. Like I said, I'm from here. I want to be seen as someone who's doing good things in town, not someone who's chasing people out of their house that they've been in for 30 years. So I would make every effort to accommodate them as issues came up. So and I do think things might come up. So that might include dimming certain aspects of the light, et cetera. But I do feel the design is appropriate, for the district. And I particularly the logo sign is extremely important for the functioning of the club and for it to be visible from the street. And this exterior will be an iconic thing that will be seen, if not in person, but in images all over the world. And so to allow it to be clearly identified and to have a strong brand identity is really, really important. So I'm hoping that you will approve the variance. I feel like we got a lot of really, really strong support from the community about the design, and I would like to keep it intact.
All right, okay. For hearing nothing further, we'll call the public hearing part of this to a close. And now we turn to the factors. We go through both statute and various court decisions have laid out a set of factors that we have to address for each variance. And each one of us has, for those that haven't been to these meetings before, each one of us has to weigh in on each of those factors. And then at the end, we actually vote on whether to approve the variance request or not. And so Judy is really capable of leading us through the factors. She's done it many times before with great expertise. And I would hope that you would be willing to do it again tonight.
Indeed, I would. And my question to Brienne is, it would be my sense that we need two separate runs through of the Duncan Factors, one for the rear.
One for the setbacks, one for the signage.
Yep. Okay. So let's take the rear yard setback first. So you are weighing in as to whether to approve a 0 lot line variance for this establishment. Question 1 is whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. And I'm going to stop. I'm really sorry. I got ahead of myself. What I will do is give a pause. If no one immediately chimes in and says, I have a comment or a question, that is members of the board, I'm just going to read through, call that roll. And if you need to take a moment and comment or question when your name is called, that's also fine if I miss you up front. Is everyone good with that? All right, here we go. Question 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Reed.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Second question is whether the variance is substantial. Salmonson.
No.
Raska.
Yes.
Jacobs.
No.
Reed.
No.
Question 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Reed.
No.
Raska.
Yes.
Jacobs.
No.
Salmonson.
No.
Question 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuse collection. And before I call the roll, we'll make the comment that Johnny Burns has given his blessing to the variance. Should you approve it, there would be no disruption from his end. Raska,
No.
Reed,
No.
Jacobs,
Nope.
Salmonson.
No,
Question 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Reed.
I'm assuming yes.
All right, Jacobs,
Yes.
Salmonson,
yes,
Raska.
Yes.
Question 6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Salmonson,
yes,
Raska,
Yes.
Reed.
I'll say no.
Okay, Jacobs.
Yes.
Okay. Question 7, whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Raska,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Salmonson,
yes,
Jacobs.
Yes.
Okay. And question 8, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Jacobs,
Yes.
Raska,
No.
Salmonson,
reading it just a second. No,
Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we need a motion to approve the variance. And if there's a second, we'll take a vote on that. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. And remember, we're voting just on the rear setback piece. Please call the roll.
Yes. Raska,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes,
Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and so now we move to the signs plural variance. So this is seeking relief from the size and number of signs. Let me double check that I got everything you needed to get. Yes, so it's signs that exceed size and height, number per street frontage, and total number. Okay, so we will go through our questions again. Question 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable.
Can we have a moment here of discussion first?
Yes, oh, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Folks looking at this as members of BZA, talking to you, I mean, this plan, I feel for the neighbors, and I'm just wondering about this vertical C. It's a big feature. I mean, we are in the central business district, and so theoretically that kind of stuff is allowed to exist. It seems large though to me, and I'm just a little troubled about the size of the thing, and whether it's necessary to be that large. And I don't know that I know the answer to that thought or any kind of resolution, but anyway, I just want to throw it out there.
How much-
Alice, do we want to ask Max to explain that a bit more?
Well, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, we try to facilitate a good conversation that gets us to a fair and just result. And so,
Yeah.
Matt, I appreciate you raising that. And Max, maybe, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Max, I have some misgivings as well. And so let's give you a chance to address that.
Could I ask a question first? How much of a variance is it? as I look through in feet.
It's hard to determine because if you're looking at the actual signage itself, I mean, the side had like a 20 square foot area. I think the front maybe was 40 square feet, which would be allowable, but we're talking about the whole thing as a sign, and that includes that projected C logo. So it wasn't something I could really determine.
Would it help you folks if Max could give you in square footage just that projected area, the C, and what the dimensions of that are, and whether how far outside of the code that falls?
Yes.
Sure. The size of it is approximately 4 feet by 8 feet. And so if you look at that mock-up that I did, it was one sheet of the foam stuff. And so that's about the size of it. So that's 24 square feet for that particular sign. That's the whole area, not but that's sort of like the shape of the logo type. And there's nothing magic about the size. Whether it's say it's 7 feet or 8 feet, it's just a matter of trying to find the right proportion and looking at it, as a scale of a thing in and of itself. It wants to be in scale with the size of the marquee, or it sort of starts to lose meaning. I think it could still be effective at a slightly smaller size, but I think at a much smaller size, it would lose its effectiveness. So I think it's appropriately scaled, but I'm certainly open to conversation about it. Like I said, I'd like to keep it as it is, but I think it could come down slightly in size and still be effective. But anyway, that about 4 feet by 8 feet is what it is now. 8 feet tall, 4 feet wide. Just that portion.
So to go back to Brian, though, are you saying that we are not in a position to negotiate conditions on a variance? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, it's a binary issue. You're either approving or denying a variance.
Well,
but in reality, if the applicant determines that he has a better chance of having it approved by modifying the application, then in fact that can happen.
Yes, the applicant can come and seek, if BZA turns down the request tonight and denies it, the applicant can bring it back and say, we've modified it to either fit the zoning code, in which case no variance would be required, or we've incorporated BZA's criteria that were again, you have to identify what's your basis for a denial if you do a denial, and it's got to be based on your Duncan factors. But if you look at, I believe it's page 10 of your packet, on that marquee, it's got what the code has, and then what the dimensional requirements are. So the marquee with logo is going to be measuring 134.6 square feet at the street frontage and 106.8 square feet at the side. So, the size of 48 square feet maximum is actually on there. But because it's got the C, that's where it exceeds the 4x8. So if it didn't have the C on it, it technically, and we didn't have the additional signage in the code, it wouldn't need a variance for that marquee if it didn't have the C on top of it.
One thing I might add that I hope is a mitigating factor, particularly for Wayne and Betty, is that the C, you'll be seeing sort of straight on, like this from Wayne and Betty's house. You're looking at the side of, like sort of the edge of it, and the C itself is facing, towards 68. So you're not looking at the thing straight on. So even if we scale it down, you still got Betty's finger sticking up. So, I think that does help mitigate the impact, at least for them. And, again, just to remind everybody, this is a business district, and this is really, from all the business that we've lost over the years to, Vernay Laboratories and Antioch Bookplate and all that stuff. And, we have this wonderful industry that Dave is hoping to bring to Yellow Springs and kind of like do his work from home. And, I'm hoping to send him a positive message that, what he's doing is being welcomed in town. And I think this sort of is, is would be an encouraging thing that, this club could be here for, 30, 40, 50 years, long after Dave himself is not performing anymore. So that's my hope for this club.
I wanted to point out, because I was having difficulty in calculating that, and that's why, we took the extreme measurements of that 134 at street and 106 at the side. But, again, what I was trying to say is, somebody puts an awning, something over their business, does that awning have to be restricted to 48 square feet? And I think really we're talking about what is the point of the signage. And so therefore, what I calculated and what I got from Max was, the frontage where the sign part is 48 square feet on the marquee itself. It's 20 square feet on the side. And then he just said the dimensions of the logo is 32 square feet, 8 by 4. So that's a little bit different than that 134. It's just kind of hard the sign code's a little confusing on that. When it says 48 square feet, is that just where the signage is, or is that the whole awning? It's not, that's not defined in the code.
Which is why it needs a variance.
Okay, so Matt, you started all of this. Do you feel like have you gotten are you satisfied with this part of the conversation?
I'm just frustrated that we're not able to kind of negotiate with Max here a little bit to get that thing reduced in size. That it is a binary choice. It kind of handcuffs us in terms of our decision-making process. So,
well, I mean, I can say that at this prior hearing, that of course isn't precedential, but is interesting. All of those changes were hashed out at a single meeting. The applicant and the person with the objection put their heads together, and the proposal was changed for that meeting and voted on at that meeting. I'm just saying that can be done. I mean, we're trying we're not trying to impede business. We're not trying to impede a good project, but we're also trying to respect the concerns of neighbors in the community. We can do all of that right here tonight. Does any of that sound appealing to you, Max?
I don't know that you want to pitch that to Max necessarily. I think that you could, as a body, say, hey, other members of the body, I'm hearing a couple of you inclining towards a big fat no. What would be your cutting point? What would be your cutoff point? And then you decide what's the cutoff point for you being able to look at that variance in a more positive light. You can pitch it to Max and ask him if he wants to change his request. And if he doesn't, he doesn't, then you move forward. But if he is amenable to that, then you move forward with those. That's the way you did it prior to. There should not be any negotiation or discussion between the complainant or the person who's not in favor and the person who's requesting.
Fair enough. So, but Max, I heard you say that you could modify your proposal. And I mean, I do understand design-wise what you're doing. You're replicating an old-time marquee, right? You
Exactly.
have the thing that wraps around. You have the thing that stands up. I respect that. It looks cool.
It's
know?
really, it's based on the classic old movie and theater marquees you've seen 100 times. It's
Right.
there's nothing too unique about it. I looked at a lot of different marquees from all over the country as just as references, to try to decide what was appropriate to propose. And that sort of central element is a very common theater, it's a common design element for those marquees for all kinds of theaters. So if you guys wanted to discuss that, I will listen. And in the meantime, I'm going to open up my CAD drawing and make sure I have the measurements correct. And if you came back with something, I'd be prepared to listen.
Can I ask a process question? Judy or Brianne, can we just continue this hearing
You can table it.
so that it doesn't have to be re-advertised? It doesn't have to,
Well, it would still have to be re-advertised, but
it would? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, 'cause we've already closed
any
the-
changes would require a revision to the staff recommendation and re-advertising.
Okay. So that would essentially be 30 days at a minimum. Well, more than that, actually. Okay.
Well, it's just because of the holidays. I don't know if we're gonna get, it's up to Judy to try to bring all of you together again. From staff's perspective, when we saw when Max did the actual mock-up to scale, I don't know if photo would help you again or not. It was not out of proportion with the building.
Shall I bring that photograph up again, board?
Matt, would that be helpful?
Sure.
While he's doing that, may I ask a procedure question?
Sure.
There's 4 voting members. What constitutes approval?
3.
Mhm.
Okay.
Max, do you have the one picture of with the actual mock-up?
There we go. There we go.
Okay, there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I look at this photo, you could even see from this angle, as you bring the top of that sort of C part, because of where it sits on the marquee, the shorter it gets, the harder it is going to be to see, because it's kind of obscured by the front corner of the marquee. That's kind of an indicator to that. To me, I'm just looking at this, and to me, the height looks like, as a designer, it just looks about right. But like I say, I don't want to be, I'd rather get an approval than not. But I think it looks good.
And this is my last question for you, Max. Is it internally lit or externally lit?
That would be internally lit.
Okay, gotcha. All right, great. Okay, well.
Can I have a question? So, and then when it's internally lit, Max, it's the front side that's facing the street would not be. It's going to be illuminated
No,
on the side.
absolutely. Correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've kind of exhausted the conversation on this, and we do have a couple of other items of business that we need to do.
Yes.
Let's see if we can go back to the screen of the members here. Thanks. Okay, very good. All right. So the one idea has been floated of taking a pause and re-advertising and all that stuff. And I suppose that really is up to the applicant, whether the applicant wants to go that route. And so if the applicant wants to proceed, then I think we as a body should proceed and take our vote. So Max, give you one more shot at this and then we'll proceed to take a vote.
Sure. I would just say, I think that I could drop the sign's height by a small margin, something like 12 inches or something like that. And if the board was amenable to approve it on that basis, I'd be willing to do that. Although I don't know if you could, you can just take my word for it, or if we'd have to come back. I would much rather not come back, just because the process is pretty long and challenging. And it's not so difficult for me because I do it all the time. But my clients, they get frustrated because the internal workings of the government aren't always really clear to them. You guys probably run into this all the time, but it's a long process and we've got lots and lots of projects to do. So I'd rather move forward with it. I'd rather you guys take a vote. And if you end up denying it, I'll have to deal with the consequences of that. But I'd rather that you come to a decision tonight so that we could decide how to move forward. Rather than table it. That's my preference. But of course, if you do table it, that would give you all more time to talk about it, and I do that. But it's not my preference.
Gotcha. And so just to extend this further, Brian, I'm hearing Max say that he would be willing to have a sign that's 1 foot less tall. So instead of 4 by 8, it'd be 4 by 7. Is there any way, let's say, and if he's in fact willing to do that tonight, how can we accomplish that at this meeting? So that everybody can leave here having resolved this issue?
Again, what you're voting on is a variance to approve the maximum size and number of signs, all of the signs. But you can put in your vote that, with the understanding that the applicant has now represented that it's a 4 by 7 instead of a 4 by 8. It's still going to be oversized. It's still going to need that variance.
But we can make that condition tonight.
Well, again, when you vote on it, he's now entered it as part of the record of the BZA proceeding. Okay. That would be.
You're kind of going into another whole realm here because, yeah. I mean, from a staff perspective, what that 28 square feet, what are we talking about here? I mean, he could come back with something that's still the same height, but maybe not as wide. I mean, so that's not really been clarified.
It would still need a variance if he dropped it by a foot.
Go ahead, Max.
Question.
Oh, I would just say, I don't know, it's tough because if you could put a condition on it, that would make it easy for us. But I guess I'm hearing procedurally that's maybe not allowed. But if you approved with the condition that it won't be more than 7 feet, above the body of the marquee or something.
Yeah. You can say that as part of the variance.
Well,
if you precede with your motion instead of ending with your motion, if you precede the Duncan Factors with a motion, I'm asking Brian, that states we're considering the variance as requested with the condition as agreed to by the applicant during the hearing that the height above roof level will not exceed 7 feet. Then you go through the Duncan Factors with that caveat already expressly stated.
Well, I'd ask Max to clarify that because I think it's the height above the marquee itself, not above the roof line. But yes, that is a perfectly appropriate way to do it.
Yeah, but I could live with that, and I think we could work with that. So 7 feet above the line of the the top of the body of the marquee. I could certainly live with that.
Right. And Matt Raska, I believe you had a question. Is that correct?
Yes, which part of the variance hearing are we even on at this?
We are on the sign part. So we've dispatched the rear piece of it.
So we are past the public hearing and we are,
having a conversation among board members to figure out how to proceed. And
I have a question then.
Yes.
I'll ask it after the Duncan Factors.
okay. All right. So I think we have a path forward here that might in fact allow us to get this resolved tonight. We'll find out after we take a vote. So we're looking for a motion, and I don't want to state it wrong. So if somebody feels that, was that Judy or Denise
I'd like to state that a sign that's 4 foot by 7 foot is not substantially different than a sign that's 4 foot by 8 foot. And lit up and pointing in your bedroom.
Okay. Appreciate that. But so the proposal is, the way I understand it, that that there's a motion that if we approve this, we impose a condition. Is this acceptable, Brianne? I want to make,
Well,
comfortable.
you can take the motion in the second, you do not vote on it. Then you can go through your Duncan factors, you vote on all of the Duncan factors, you come to the end of the Duncan factors, and then you go back to the original motion to take a vote on the original motion.
okay. So let us do that. The motion would be that the sign that sticks up would be limited to 7 feet above the marquee. Is
So
there a
those
second?
would be approve the variance with the condition that the sign above the marquee does not exceed 7 feet of height above the marquee.
Right, okay. Is there a
And then
second?
you're going to need to include in that motion, if you go to my staff recommendation on page 4, then you need to also just read off the other things on that. The motion would include 2 extra signs fronting Corry Street, an additional 4.9 square feet in size for the sign at the rear of the building, and a variance to the size of the marquee logo sign.
Right, and all of the other
All of those in
items
that
in
same
Denise's thing would be included in this motion.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a second? I will second.
Okay,
Who made the
Reed
motion?
and Jacobs.
Okay. All
Who
right,
made the
so
motion?
essentially, so now we're going to go through the Duncan factors, and essentially we will have an opportunity to vote on a proposal that has a slight modification in it, in the sense that the section that stands up in the middle will be not as tall as what we've previously been presented with. Okay? All right. Judy, are you comfortable leading us through the Duncan factors at this point?
I have a question.
Yes,
Who made the motion?
Matt did.
Oh,
Matt
okay,
Reed,
okay,
and I seconded it.
copy.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Have at
All
it,
right,
Judy.
all right, folks, here we go. Question 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Reed,
Sorry, I was muted there. Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes,
Jacobs.
Yes.
Question 2, whether the variance is substantial. Raska,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Salmonson,
no,
Jacobs.
Yes.
Question 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Reed,
I will say no.
Salmonson,
no,
Raska,
Yes, substantially altered to a substantial detriment.
Jacobs.
No.
Question 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuse collection. Salmonson,
no,
Raska,
No.
Reed,
No.
Jacobs.
No.
5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Reed.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Salmonson.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Question 7, whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Raska.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
And question 8, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Salmonson.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Raska.
No.
Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have a motion to approve this piece of the variance request as modified so that the sign standing up in the middle is only 7 feet higher than the wraparound piece. Is there a, well, we have a motion, we have a second, so I think we're ready to take a vote on it.
Is everyone ready? Do you need to hear the motion again? Okay. All right, then I will call the roll on the vote to approve the variance. Jacobs.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Raska.
No.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay. Hey, I want to thank everybody. That wasn't as easy as I'm sure we all hoped it would be. I appreciate everybody taking the time to weigh in and voice their concerns. Max, I appreciate your flexibility in this matter. And Brianne and Denise and Judy, your flexibility as well. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
All righty. So
You guys condemn them to having a light in their bedroom forever.
all right. So we are ready to move on to, unless anybody needs, I learned a new term called bio break. You do enough of these Zooms, you hear about bio breaks. Do we need a bio break or are we ready to soldier on here? I'm seeing everybody indicating that they're good. Okay, very good. Then the second variance application is the one regarding 202 Fairfield Pike. And that would be Josh Myers. And Denise, I think over to you.
Right. So this is Planning Commission approved an accessory dwelling unit for this property. And it was originally a garage with the accessory dwelling unit on top. And then the garage wasn't able to sustain an accessory dwelling unit on the second floor. So the garage was demolished and it's now, it meets all the code requirements for its size for the ADU, and it has a height of 18 feet. One of the things that Josh did when he was building this was he had made a half bath. I believe it has access only from the outside. I need to clarify that with him, but he didn't understand that the requirement. One of the many requirements for an accessory dwelling unit is it can only have 2 adults in it when it's a detached accessory dwelling unit, and it can only have 1 bathroom. So he wanted to have a variance allowing him to have this half bath. So I had to talk with the solicitor, make sure this was something that can come before the BZA, and she indicated yes, because it has to do with dimensions, numbers, that kind of thing, which is something that's under your purview. So that's what so yeah.
Thank you, Denise. Any questions for Denise before we hear from Josh? Okay, hearing none. Josh, is there anything you want to add or subtract?
I just want to say thanks everyone for your time. Yes, Denise is correct that we are requesting the half bath, which we look at as I guess we're calling it for our family use, a seasonal bathroom. It's nearly a half-acre lot, and this bathroom would only be accessible from the outside. We have 2 young kids, and we envision, a slip and slide outside, riding bikes, as many outdoor activities as we can. And that's why we feel it's important to us as a part of the design. So I just appreciate your time and consideration and would be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Josh? No? All righty. How is the building, how is it outfitted? What is it? I mean, what's in there other than the half bath?
So accessory dwelling units can have 1 bedroom, a kitchen or kitchenette, a living room, and a bathroom. That's it. There's a size limitation on them. They can't be more than 800 square feet based on the size of the house. I think they're slightly under what they can based on the size of the house. I think they're at 600 and something square feet. So all that's been reviewed by the Planning Commission. So they do meet all that. I think the only thing I did want, well, I'll wait for the public hearing because I'll just mention that in the public hearing portion, but that's it. It's intended to be accessory to the primary. It's not intended to be a second house.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much. All right. If there are no further questions for Josh, let's open up the public hearing part of it. Are there any members of the public that want to be heard on this application? Judy, is this the application that we had the additional communication on from a neighbor saying they didn't have an objection, or was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Okay, thanks.
I did have somebody who just, anonymous person, but I know this person, and they were just wondering about, they just knew that the height of it was taller than like the other ranch houses. But again, it follows the code. You can, with the type of hip or gable roof, it can be up to 18 feet in height. And they also were questioning the outdoor bathroom, the seasonal bathroom, because they thought maybe it was just going to become a place for big parties. And this is going to be used as transient guest lodging. But again, with transient guest lodging for a detached accessory dwelling unit, you can only have 2 adults. So if they violate that and have 4 adults in there, then they're not following the requirements of the ADU of the accessory dwelling unit by renting it out to 2 couples or something like that. You can have 1 couple and kids. There's nothing that prevents you from having 4 kids in there with 1 couple, but you can't turn this into a party house, which I think was one of the concerns that a neighbor had.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. No other members of the public that want to be heard? No members of the public that want to be heard? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And Judy, over to you.
All right, folks.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
Tony, which of the 2 buildings is the auxiliary dwelling unit? The main house or the new building?
Where you see the 2 cars that are parked in front of on the Polecat roadside.
That the smaller building is the ADU.
Yes. And it's using
the way I understood the example, that's where his family's going to live.
Yes, when they're here. They don't live here. So when they're not here, they're going to use it for other purposes, as transit guest lodging. But they want to be able.
What is the main house used for?
It's a rental. It's a long-term rental.
It's a long-term rental?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, hey, thanks, Tony. All right, if there are no further questions, I think we're ready for Judy.
Okay, here we go through the Duncan factors. First question, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Reed,
Yes.
Jacobs,
Yes,
Raska,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Tony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So
Okay,
the
take your time.
ADU has to have two bathrooms?
The variance is to go from 1 bathroom to 1.5 bathrooms.
What's the required?
One.
It is in fact limited to one, Tony. That's why they're asking for the variance.
Okay, I was confused. Thank you.
Yeah,
Were the property, were you, without the variance? Yes.
okay, thank you. Question 2, whether the variance is substantial. Raska,
No.
Reed,
No.
Salmonson,
No.
Jacobs.
nope,
3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Jacobs,
no,
Reed,
No.
Raska.
No.
Salmonson.
No.
4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuse collection. Raska,
No.
Salmonson,
No.
Reed,
No.
Jacobs.
nope,
Question 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Reed,
I'm assuming yes.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Jacobs.
yes,
6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Jacobs.
no,
Okay. Raska,
No.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
7, whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Reed,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Jacobs.
yes,
And finally, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Salmonson,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jacobs,
yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve.
We do.
Anybody
I
make
make a
that
motion to
motion?
approve the variance as requested.
Okay, second.
Second.
All righty, thank you.
Was that Raska?
and- Yeah, that was Matt.
Thank you.
All righty. And Judy, you want to take the roll call?
Indeed. Jacobs,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Thank you.
2 down, 1 more.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Josh, good luck. And I think we're ready to move to the final one.
Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Okay,
Alrighty.
so I did want to say that I did these in order of how the applications came in this time. I probably would have put Max at the end because I knew his was going to take more time, but I thought to be fair, his was, he turned in his in first, so.
Well, that's
Apologize.
okay.
Mark,
We
Matthew,
were-
you gotta wait.
I
Anyway.
appreciate that. But I mean,
So-
everybody else got to see government in action. So, I mean, you can hardly, get that anywhere else. This is great. Okay, thank you very much. Denise, you're up.
So, yeah, so this property is owned by Mark Opstelecki. He has made it, it's coactive Yellow Springs coactive. It's an interesting building in that it allows for people, sort of like a cooperative. They share spaces, common spaces, and it's a really cool building. What he did with it, it used to be the former Ertl Publishing Company, and so he one of the tenants that's going in there is Edward Jones Investment Company, and they're doing a remodel of a portion of that building, and they would like to put a sign on South High Street. This is a non-conforming building in that it basically takes up the entire lot. There's just a little bit of room to the property line. So they're basically requesting a variance for, it's normally a 10-foot setback, but they're requesting a variance of about 7 to 8 feet. They're gonna just they would like to put the sign flush with the existing building. So it would be actually on the side, but it would be flush with the building. They would not be encroaching in the right of way, even though the right of way is just a couple feet off of where the building is. But they would keep it back far enough that it would not encroach into the right of way.
All right, thank you. Questions for Denise on this one? All right, hearing none. Is the applicant, is that Mark? Is Mark present?
Yes. My wife, I'm using her Zoom call, so that's why it says Rosalie.
Mark, I think he meant Mark Obstelecki, not Mark Massey.
Yeah, so I'm here. I'm Mark Opstelecki. I'm the building owner. But so this was a project that Edward Jones is sort of pushing for. So I believe that the other gentleman that was about to speak, he's kind of representing Edward Jones on this one.
I did want to point out, so it is Exhibit A before Mark Massey speaks. That is Exhibit A in your packet, shows where the location of the sign is in relationship to the building.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear from either of the Marks, but if Mark Massey has more information, let's hear from Mark Massey. Anything you need to add?
No, I do not. I mean, if you have the drawings, like Denise said, we're looking at putting a post and panel sign in. It's 4 foot 9 inches wide. Or I'm sorry, 50 and a half inches wide with a post. And then it would be 5 feet tall off the ground. And it would be two-sided.
It meets our code requirements for the size and its height. It just doesn't meet the setback.
Okay, we're just looking at the location, but this one is flush with the edge of the building, right?
Yes.
Gotcha, okay. All right, questions for either Mark?
I have a question. I don't have my meeting minutes anymore, but does the sign light up?
It does not.
Thank you.
Okay. Any
I
other
have a
questions?
question. I'm confused, which
Yeah,
happens
go
a
ahead,
lot.
Tony.
It's two-sided sign, but it's going to be flush against the building?
No, we're saying the alignment of it is flush with the building. It's not sticking out in front of the building. The edge of it is flush with the building.
So, a dumb question. Why is it, what is two, I think Mark said it was two-sided.
It is two-sided, but it sits out far enough from the building that you'll be able to see that side if you're traveling south on South High Street.
Yeah, Tony, it looks like, just to look at the drawing, it looks like it's maybe 5 or 7 feet away from the building.
Okay, that's what I'm missing. Okay.
Yeah.
just curious why you put a sign next to a building like that, but yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, then let's open it up to the public hearing part. We did have one communication on this topic. I gather it's in support. Is that correct, Judy? And any other members of the public want to weigh in on this matter? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we'll move on to the factors. Unless there's further discussion among members of the board. Is there further discussion among members of the board? No, I don't think so. Okay.
Right, away we go. Question 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Reed.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
2, whether the variance is substantial. Salmonson.
Yes.
Reed.
No.
Raska.
No.
Jacobs.
No.
3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Raska.
No.
Jacobs.
No.
Salmonson.
No.
Reed.
No.
Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuge collection. Reed.
No.
Salmonson.
No.
Raska.
No.
Jacobs.
No.
5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Reed.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Jacobs.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Thank you. Whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Reed.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
And finally, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Jacobs.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Salmonson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Okay, second.
If you folks don't mind, I just would be more comfortable if the motion was to approve the variance to the setback rather than just approve the sign variance.
Okay.
Motion to
Okay.
approve the variance to the setback.
All right.
Thank you.
And then second.
Second was Jacobs.
All righty.
Salmonson.
And
Oh, sorry.
take a roll call. Go ahead.
Thank you. Salmonson.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Raska.
Yes.
Thank you. Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you.
You did a good job, Ellis.
Yeah, once he got rolling, we rolled through him.
Well, we did 2 of them in what, 10 minutes?
Yeah, we gave this person as 8-foot variance with no questions, and we took off 1 foot off the sign. That didn't make sense to me, but at least they got something.
It was a bad compromise. They have to leave their home.
Hey, guys, let me just suggest. Well,
Traffic, more
fellas,
noise,
Matt,
more light,
Matt,
everything.
Matt, listen, that's really not appropriate. We have sort of a public function. We have a job to do. Let's do our job. And if there's some conversation that people want to have about, these matters after the meeting, that's fine. But really, we need to handle this in an appropriate professional
Our
fashion.
duty is to the people of Yellow Springs, not its businesses.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, do we have any other business tonight?
No, and I don't have anything on the horizon right now.
All right.
Yay.
Well, we want to thank our final applicant for coming and good luck with your sign.
Thanks.
And no other surprise variances for us tonight, eh, Denise?
No, nothing else.
All right. And Judy, there's always this darn thing called agenda planning on this, but is that on this agenda tonight? Because agenda planning, there it is.
Yes.
That's where Denise says, I got nothing. And you guys, whew, I won't hear from Judy for at least 3 weeks.
Okay, good work, Denise.
Let's hope, Judy.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Hey, thanks, everybody. I know that was long and at times awkward, but I think we all